Hi, here we have a shop stores X kgs of rice. The first customer buys half of this amount plus half a kg more of the rice. The second customer buys half the remaining amount plus half a kg more, and the third customer also buys half of the remaining plus half a kg more. So all the three customers are doing the same thing. They are first of all buying half the amount that the shopkeeper had, and of the remaining they buy half a kg more. Okay, now thereafter no rice is left in the shop. Which of the following best describes the value of X? Now there are two ways of solving this question. First is by simply assuming that there was X kg of rice initially. So when the first, now we are given that there was no rice left in the shop. So let's calculate after each transaction, let's calculate what is the amount of rice left with the shopkeeper. So this was what initially he had. First customer comes and buys half the amount. So he will be left with half of X. Now first customer buys half a kg more. So that means he will be left with half kg less than this. So he will be left with X by 2 minus half kg. Okay. This is what he had after the first customer has gone. Now second customer comes. Second customer first of all buys half of the remaining amount. So half of this. So now if the customer buys half of it, the shopkeeper will be left with half of this. Now of this, from this, the second customer again buys half kg. So he will be left with half kg less. So this is what he will be left with after the second customer has gone. Now the third customer comes and the third customer buys half kg of this. So sorry, not half kg, half of this. So if the third customer buys half of this, the shopkeeper will be left with half of this whole thing. Now from this, the third customer again buys half a kg more. So the shopkeeper will be left with this whole thing minus half. Right? This is equal to 0 that we have. Finally, the shopkeeper is left with no rice. Right? So this is what we have. So now let's try to simplify this. So this minus half will go on the right hand side, becomes plus half, right? So this whole thing by 2 is equal to 1 by 2. So we have 2 and 2 get cancelled out. So this whole thing comes out to be 1. Okay? Now minus half goes that side, 1 plus minus 1 plus half it will be. So this becomes 3 by 2. This is equal to 3 by 2. Okay? So now what we have is this whole thing by 2 is 3 by 2. That means this whole thing is equal to 3. Fine. So now we have X by 2 minus half is equal to 3. So minus half goes that side. 3 plus half is 7 by 2. So X by 2 becomes 7 by 2. X here comes out to be 7. So the value of X is 7. So the best possible answer here is option B. X is between 5 and 8. Right? This is one way of solving this question. Another way of solving this question is by using the bottom to up method, as in down to up. So what we did here was we started with the initial amount of rice and then we calculated the final amount of rice left with him. Now we'll do the reverse. See, in every step, customer number, initially how much rice the shopkeeper had, customer first buys how much, then customer again buys how much, and how much rice will be left with the shopkeeper. So let's make a simple table of this. Fine. Now the first customer comes. Initially he had X rice. The first customer buys half and then half a kg more, and then there will be some amount left. Then you have second customer. Again second customer. Okay, whatever amount is left here with the shopkeeper, that will be the initial amount before the second customer comes, right? So out of this, the second customer will buy half the amount plus half a kg more. Then the shopkeeper will be left with some amount, and this will be the amount when the third customer comes initially. Out of this, the customer will buy half a kg, right? And from this again the customer will buy First of all, the customer will buy half the amount, and from this the customer will again buy half a kg more, and he will be left with, the shopkeeper will be left with 0 at the end. So this is what we have. Now you see, whatever this amount was, let's say Z, customer first of all buys Z by 2. So the shopkeeper must have been left with Z by 2 amount. Now out of Z by 2, the customer again buys half a kg, and the shopkeeper is left with 0. That means Z here must have been 1. See, shopkeeper is left with some certain amount which is same as what the customer buys. Because customer buys half the amount, shopkeeper will be left with half the amount. So from this, if we subtract half kg, we get 0. That means this must have been half kg. That means Z must have been 1. So here this must have been 1. So after the second shopkeeper has left, the second customer has left, the shopkeeper must have been left with 1 kg. Now this 1 kg is after deducting half a kg more that the second customer buys. That means before the customer buys this half kg, the shopkeeper must have had 3 by 2 kgs, right? So if the shopkeeper was left with 3 by 2 kgs, the customer must have also bought 3 by 2 kgs. So 3 by 2 is left and 3 by 2 is bought. That means before the first customer came, the shopkeeper must have been having 3 kgs amount with him. So that means after the first customer left, the shopkeeper must have had 3 kgs with him. Now this is 3 kgs left after the first customer buys half a kg more. That means before this half kg, the first customer the shopkeeper must have had 3 plus half, 3.5 kgs. 3.5 kgs, if this is the amount shopkeeper had, then the customer must have also bought 3.5 kgs, right? So if customer also bought 3.5 kgs and the shopkeeper also had 3.5 kgs, that means the shopkeeper initially had 7 kgs. So the answer must be option B. This is another way of solving the same question. Thank you.